Hello, hello, hello. Sorry. I don't know what happened.
It's all right, Dr. Asa. We're actually live. Okay. All right, technical problem again, but it's okay. Can I call on Dr. Lisa? All right.
Yeah, where is Lisa?
All right. So for those of you who are watching right now, I'm supposed to introduce them one by one, but actually Dr. Azza is here already and Dr. Lisa. But anyway, thank you very much and welcome to another episode of MJ Make My Day. You're actually watching us live on YouTube, MJ Make My Day, and of course on Usapang Kalye, Kalye Natics, Usapang Kalye. Maraming salamat po. And of course on Facebook Live, you're actually watching us on Marlon Disa Pantakan. And of course, nakasegue po tayo sa MJ Make My Day. All right, let's give a big round of applause everybody. That was a great introduction, Dr. Asa. Okay, all right. So, but anyway, before I start off continue with our show for this evening, I would like to welcome you one more time on MJ's Make My Day episode number 18. Tonight is going to be a very important topic once again because I do have the Mona Lisa of MJ Make My Day. And if you would like to join us and participate in our conversation for tonight, the meeting ID is 892-7852-6149, and our passcode is 500665. I would like to repeat that. Meeting ID 892-7852-6149. 500665 is our passcode. And before I proceed, I would like to say happy birthday to Kuya Ruben, who's actually celebrating his how many years old already. But anyway, we're not going to ask that question. He's actually watching right now live over on YouTube and Facebook in the Philippines. Okay. All right. And I'm going to say hi to all our friends who are watching right now in Caliones and Calionatics. Thank you so much for always supporting our show, MJ Make My Day. I would like to say hi to, all right, I got to read this one. To Alinil Mar, to Fagan Tamayo, Ariana Viray Kiambao, and also to Alicia Balasa. And of course, you can actually send the conversation or join us in the conversation over YouTube. You can just simply chat us on our chat box and on Facebook, of course. Okay, before I introduce to you our host for this evening, one of our core beliefs is that every person has something to contribute. That means every person, regardless of whether you're born in America, China, in the Philippines like me, Mexico, or anywhere else. Throughout our country's history, immigrants have brought new perspectives, new ideas, new innovations, and new ways of doing things. Without their contributions, both to our economy and our culture, we wouldn't have the kind of progress and prosperity that have made America the most successful country in history. The fact is, America's future depends on immigrants as much as immigrants' futures depend on America. So, our country ought to welcome any person who comes here to contribute, as the vast majority of immigrants have and still do today, and it should exclude those who would do harm. It's critical that we reform our system based on these principles. We've always been a welcoming country as well as a relatively safe country, and we can continue to be both. But my question to all of our 30,000 viewers for tonight, however, many immigrants face some form of discrimination at some point in their lives. This experience may have severe consequences for immigrants' well-being. Our specific focus on tonight's program is on discrimination against immigrants. As suggested by our host experts, we would like to identify how our immigrant students are really doing at this time of COVID-19 as they were recently back to school. What are the effects of discrimination, bias, and prejudice that our immigrant students are facing at the moment? Okay, so to introduce our host for this evening, our first host, she has been a licensed mental health counselor for 15 years and has been in private practice in Staten Island for the past 8 years. She is experienced with providing counseling to all ages, and her focus has been on cognitive behavior therapy, mindfulness, and building a resilient life. She has been working in both inpatient and outpatient community settings during her 30-year career, to include being a counselor after 911 for the city of New York, and is currently providing counseling during the latest pandemic crisis. Author of your weekly journal of positive wellness and affirmation, please help me welcome licensed mental health counselor Dr. Lisa Blanchfield. Come on, everybody. Let's give a big round of applause, Dr. Lisa.
Okay. Hello.
Hi, Dr. Lisa. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks. How are you doing? Hi, Azza.
All right, Dr. Lisa, would you like to greet our audience? We're actually live right now on Facebook and also on YouTube.
So we're going to talk a little bit tonight about teenagers and how they're going to manage through not only the COVID crisis, but also what's been going on for them with the aspect of bullying in school and online cyberbullying. And it's a very interesting topic at this time because we have now noticed that there's an increase in anxiety and depression, suicidal thoughts with teenagers, and we're trying to understand where it's coming from. And so, based on a lot of research that's being done currently, we're finding out it is obviously coming through their peer groups and also definitely social media. A lot of kids aren't in school right now, so the bullying is still going on, but we're trying to figure out how it's still manifesting itself. But it's happening, and it's something that's really current. And we hope that anyone that's going through this with their children or their grandchildren, if they want to participate in the conversation, to please join us.
Yes.
In any way they can. And you can explain to them maybe how they can ask us questions.
Absolutely. All right. I would like to repeat our number. If you have Zoom account, our meeting ID number is 892-7852-6149. And also our passcode is 500665. Thank you very much, Dr. Lisa. All right. Our next host for tonight is the author of Make Your Dream Come True and co-author of Overcoming Cultural Bias as a Red Flag to Success, author of The Next Big Thing Possibilities for Self-Development and Goal-Setting Strategies for Optimal Success. She is a family nurse practitioner who is also a board certified by the American Nurse Association and licensed by the state of New York to provide family-centered healthcare to patients of all ages. She is committed to leading the journey to teach the importance of value of a culture-specific approach in caring for individual needs, building communication skills to bridge the gap between individuals, groups, and communities, and supporting the role of the healthcare industry to embrace aging by promoting an atmosphere that enables patients to maximize their individuality, independence, and dignity, with the instinctive ability to focus on each resident's specific needs, desires, and quality of life. Please help me welcome Dr. Azza.
Thank you for having me the opportunity to talk about very important topics. And Lisa is a mental health counselor, and that's always helpful to hear a lot from her experience. And one thing we are sharing that we do have some kind of background to this kind of exposure to not bullying per se, but being immigrants and being around immigrant population and vulnerable people. So I would like to echo what you had just mentioned, that every single person on earth has some value and have something to contribute, and we're all complementing each other. And becomes more and more understandable, but it needs to be continually processed and mentioned, and to be mindful and be awareness more than anything else. It's not like you're gonna solve it, and again, we can look at it the glass half full and we say came a long way and we are doing great. We have so many
immigrant in positive higher positions, including the President of the United States, Mr. My God.
All right, Mr. Donald Trump.
Oh, before Mother. Okay. So I'm sorry, I had a stressful day today, but what I'm trying to say is we still have a lot of work to do, and it never finish, and it will continue to exist, and we have to continue our awareness, and we have to address it and contribute to the public with the awareness of that's not an acceptable behavior.
Absolutely. All right. There's a lot of statistics that actually show the people. A lot of people are actually experiencing this type of bullying. So I would like to start off with Dr. Lisa. How is bullying defined, Dr. Lisa?
So we can define it based on some negative behavior that an individual experiences, either as a child, a teenager, and even as an adult. And it's usually a person in power or has more power over another person, individualized behavior that's either mean, something so negative that it's very hurtful. And I think that with teenagers, it's either racial slurs, ethnic slurs, their physical appearance is they're very cognizant of how they appear. And in social media, we've got an issue now where visuals are available, pictures are available, people see your makeup and your hair and your outfits. And so what's happening is children are identifying their self-image with the portrayal from the social media around them, which are usually their peers. And a lot of times, even in school, when we were in school, it will be the children that are closest to them that will use their power over them. And it's sometimes the most popular children who then seem to pick on the minority children. So immigrant children have even a greater difficulty with this because English may not be their first language. Their parents may have been born in another country. They're intimidated by the person. The majority is usually the group that takes on the children that are either racially, ethnically, socially different from them. And what happens is that power and that pressure starts to work on their self-esteem. They become anxious, they become depressed, and a lot of times the resources might be there, but they have difficulty verbalizing what's happening to them.
Thank you very much. Would you like to continue on that, Dr. Azza?
No, it's just like I have a little extra point that sometimes add up to the problem. Like some of the immigrants, they are coming as a refugee and they are going through another trauma, and they are the children, but they are at the same time taking the role of their parents because their parents doesn't speak the language, so they feel like they're in charge of their parents. So the role here sometimes get reversed, and that's where we see that they are not telling their parents that they have issue. They are trying to take things on their own, and we sometimes, for some cultural differences, we take it as they are careless, they don't want to give their family don't care, and it could be a cultural differences and misunderstanding, which is contributing to making the situation worse. Now you're struggling, you've been bullied, you've been mistreated, and you're misunderstood also. So that's why it's very crucial and so important that the key people in the community be aware, whether it's a policeman, whether it's a teacher, whether it's the cleaning housekeeper guy in the school, that sometimes there is a cultural differences and they are trying to protect their family and themselves and their dignity. So it can come up like they are tough and the family are not, they don't care, they're not involved. So there are so many issues to be considered, especially with the immigrants and the refugee and stranger in the country. And imagine just going someplace and you have no friends, you don't, that's not your language. You just can't imagine it, and then you will understand and realize how difficult and to public, or you have people looking at you and laughing at you and making slurred remark about your name, your face, your anything, the way you dress. So that's something I think we all as teacher and people in positions that we have to be more sensitive and address and continuing supporting these people in order to ease their transition here in the United States, especially if they're legally here. So it's not something that we in our power to say no, they don't belong here and offend them about it. We just have to be kind human beings.
Thank you very much on the take on Dr. Azza. Okay, so what happened to children or to the immigrant students if they are being bullied?
So what should happen is the first thing is they have to verbalize what's happening. And as Azza said, there are a lot of social, economic, family issues going on, usually at the same time that a child goes to school or is online or is constantly being criticized for either how they look or what their religion is or what country they were emigrating from. We're very aware in this country, and there's a political atmosphere going on that we're identifying people and we're grouping people together. So if, for example, you're a Mexican family in Staten Island, and there's been a lot of negative rhetoric about Mexican people, the children naturally pick up on any cues that they hear, and they start to bully another child. Maybe their English isn't perfect, maybe they speak half English or half Spanish, or maybe they're just aware that they don't look like them, the majority of the students. So what happens is we have to teach and train these kids to say what's happening. They have to tell someone. They can tell their teacher, they can tell their social worker, they definitely can tell their parents, but their parents might be afraid to say something because who knows what their status is. So typically the child or the teenager or even adults, they don't confess to anyone that this is happening to them. And that's what's creating a larger problem, because if we don't know, how can we fix it? We can't fix something that we're not aware of. And I think as educators, we all need to instill that in children and to anyone, that if something's happening, you have to let someone know. The closest adult to you, tell them what's happening, and then address the bullying and confront the person, because it doesn't work to just ignore it and pretend like it's not happening.
It's a very good point, Dr. Lisa, because I had a situation 10 years ago where I personally experienced the discrimination and the bullying and name it. And when I told my friend that I can trust her, I was at this time 25 years in America. And that was the very, very first big experience that it really hurt me so bad. But the response was, you are lucky that the first time in 25 years. So I don't understand, like sometimes we think this is okay, this is acceptable. And then I said, there must be something lesson for me here to learn. Because if I am a professional, hardworking, contributing to the society of the United States of America, and I've been told that's okay if it's only one time in 25 years, you're lucky. It's not luck. It's not acceptable. No matter, I wouldn't say 25 years, but for anybody, for any person, it should not be accepted that somebody will try to put you down just for the sake of having different culture, different background, different identity. That really is so painful. It's so painful. And I said this experience, even though it happened 10 years ago, I always take everything that happened in people's life as something that you have responsibility to share it and our others, not to let it affect them, because if somebody else would just give up and don't continue the schooling and really be, I said, if this hurt me and this stopped me 2 years from continuing what I was planning to do, 2 years. So I can imagine if somebody's able to, create our own life and living the American dream and respecting the community and sharing all their value while we're having ours. So what I'm trying to say is we have to give hand to those who are going through what we went through, because we went through it and we came out okay for a reason. So it's so painful. It's so, you feel like, I cannot explain it, it's something that you cannot just fix it like a surgery or a disease. It's something so hard because remember, this affects your dignity, and dignity is your self identity, and make you for a while, lose trust in yourself, and maybe for somebody will start doubting themselves as well. So especially if you are minority, and you are vulnerable because you are under their mercy, and they feel what Dr. Lisa said, it's usually misuse of power. When some people feel that they have power and they don't think that anybody can challenge them, because
Absolutely.
it's hard to control it. So how can you tell them that they are wrong?
So,
But the good thing is there are ways, and that's what we're going to be discussing and hopefully sharing, because you should not let anybody stand against your dream or your life that you want to create for yourself.
that's right. So, what do you think are the reasons or reason why people, can I use the word victim or being bullied, are unable to express themselves or to tell somebody that they are being bullied or they actually needed some help? What do you think are the explanation for that situation?
Well, I think they don't feel empowered, and you start to believe. Azza's given an example as an adult. Can you imagine a 13-year-old is just developing their own self-concept, their own self-esteem, figuring out who they are, how they want to appear to the world? They're learning skills, but they don't have that strength that we have as an adult to stand up to a bully. So they start to internalize what someone's saying. If it's go back to your country, what's wrong with your hair?
Yeah.
Why is your skin that color? They start to look at themselves in the mirror and say, why do I sound like this? Why do I look like this? They can't conceptualize that this is a person who is just probably, for whatever reason, being mean to them and being aggressive with them. So they start to think that is how they look. And especially with social media, if someone calls them ugly, they're going to believe they're ugly. Whatever we tell people, eventually they're going to believe it. And the kids that have the most difficulty coming out of it, it's due to their lack of self-esteem and their strength. But how could they? If they don't get a parent or an adult behind them, standing up for them. So the first thing you have to do is you have to eliminate the bully. You have to confront them, eliminate the rhetoric, because what happens is you start to believe what people tell you, right? If somebody starts telling you, you don't speak properly, what are you speaking? What are you saying? You look different. You start to believe that to be the truth. And then it's difficult to then say, who am I? And you have to empower them then. There's a lot of damage that comes with it. It's really better to try and prevent it than to try to work on their self-esteem after they've been emotionally scarred from the bullying. And sometimes it's physical, there's emotional, there's psychological, there's all different types. But depending on the severity of it, it will tell us how long it's going to take to heal from it as well.
So, what do you think would be the best response? Because I know, and we've seen it all over in the television, in the news, that sometimes people were going to say, go back to your country. What are you doing in the United States? You don't speak English, or your culture is different. I don't look the same way as you look. So, what is there a proper way of response that we can actually provide during that moment, or should we just keep quiet and just don't mind what the other person was saying?
Okay, from my experience and what I encounter with myself, my children, and most of my friends who immigrated, it's not about us, because like Dr. Lisa said, we already established our identity and we are able to understand. And sometimes we look at these people as, a victim themselves, that they are having trouble, they have issues having to deal with some other human being, I would say. And so the issue that we should be focusing on now is the child, how he feels and how he is taking this word, like Dr. Lisa said. Are they internalized? So we have to look for some symptoms. If they're coming from school mad, upset, yelling, screaming, and throwing things out, and they're just venting because they cannot vent outside. We have to pay attention to how they react. If they don't feel good going to school, there will be some sign. And it's always good to give the fact and the assumption. So we have to show them what is the fact. So the fact is you are a smart person and you are here for a better future and you are here to study and to prove yourself and educate yourself. So you always help them to focus on themselves and their goal and their future. And I have a friend of mine, and she used to tell her daughter all the time, the only way, because they refused to play with her. And right now, she graduated with Harvard School, and she's doing so well. But the only thing that she used to tell her, they don't have to play with you.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're smarter, when you're the top of the class, try to see what's going to happen. And it's true. You know, they start, instead of making fun of her hair or her skin complexion or anything, they start trying to be friendly. So the focus was on what is going on and what are we trying to achieve. We are trying to get our kids to be successful. So we are not going to put them in the drama, and we have to pull them out of that atmosphere and have to think different, think bigger. You know that you guys here to prove yourself. You have to be smart. Look at education, how important education is, and you are in the best country of the world that provide everybody with any opportunity that they. And you just slowly, it's going to be like a pressure, like it's like pulling from two sides. So the side of the pain, but when they feel the comfort of the parents, the mentor, the teacher, the school, and they feel like they are loved and they are cared for and we are listening to them and don't ignore the feeling. I'm not going to say, no, you're just imagining. Come on, that's nothing is going on. There is some other people having worse than us. No, you do acknowledge how they feel, but you give them a chance to be against it and to overcome it and to be the best. And then when you are the best, nobody will really care much where you're coming from. They respect you in your position because you are adding value to the community. And I believe that's what we all have to focus on, improving ourselves and empowering ourselves and our image and our generation, not to be ashamed of their culture, to really identify the best that they would like to adapt about their culture. And at the same time, we have to respect that they will pick something from multicultural, which is making it great, because when they learn something from different culture, even when we go out to eat and you have somebody with Thai food, somebody with Chinese, somebody with Italian, Filipino, Egyptian, American. So you get to have that kind of open buffet and selection. And I always like open buffet, so I can have choices.
Of course, we love. Who doesn't love buffet, right? Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, does age make a difference when someone is being bullied? What do you think is the earliest age that they become a bullied victim, or what can you say about that, Dr. Lisa?
Well, it can happen at any age. And I think, to be honest, it depends on our environment. So children as early as preschool or once they go to school, I think there's an identification, depending on the majority of the students, what they look like, as to whether one student might look different. So if there's one child in the classroom
that looks different
than the majority of the students, it's at any age that it's identified. But I really believe that the philosophy that children have, they learn it at home. So whatever the parents are teaching the children will then speak to their peers, other children the same way. And getting back to what we learn and how we adapt, it's based on the education we receive. So parents really need to be aware of what they're saying, what their children are listening to. Social media has a huge influence. And now the children growing up start with the iPad, and then they go to the iPhone, and then they go to all online access to any kind of information. And there is a lot of negativity. We should really be honest. I want to just say it like it is, and you guys know me, but what's going on online in social media, there's trolling, there are people attacking other people. You can't even have a belief. If you have a belief, you don't know who's going to be watching and then making comments. And so the battle is on social media, and the kids as early as 6, 7 years old have iPads. So they could be going on any site, reading any kind of information. It's not always from the parents that they're emulating this attitude, but it could come from anywhere. And so we have to be really cognizant and aware of what our kids are learning, because they will repeat whatever they hear, right? So whatever they hear at home or wherever, they're going to say it and they're going to be hurtful. So they have to be taught. And I really think it's the parent's responsibility. When a child is bullied, the person that I historically had to go after was usually the parent. I said, leave the child alone and let me understand why the parent has a child that talked to my child this way. And the children have to be taught. It's not really their fault. They bully because that's what they know. Maybe their parents are bullies. Maybe their parents are prejudiced or discriminate. We don't know. But the children will obviously reflect whatever they hear. And it can happen at any age, which is really kind of scary to think that a child just hears something and then just can repeat it to another child.
Is there a link between childhood bullying and antisocial behavior in later years?
Well, the person that becomes antisocial is bullied, is the victim of the bullying, because the bully is powerful. The bully is the one that's going around just insulting people and attacking people and intimidating people. But the child that then is the recipient, the victim of it, they become very isolated because they're afraid of what's going to happen. I mean, they get off of social media. The parents usually take them right off of whatever base they're on or whatever they're listening to, because of the fact that it's damaging them. So I think that it's everywhere, and I think that what happens is we have to kind of focus on the individual and say, has their behavior changed? If they start to say they don't want to go out, they don't want to go to school, they don't want to see their friends, they don't want to participate, it's okay, I guess, if they're not into social media, but they start to withdraw, there's probably a reason why something's happened that's been really hurtful to them.
Okay, and this question is for Dr. Azza. Dr. Azza, my question for you, what is the role of peers in bullying? Do you think that my friend can actually bully me too?
Let me ask you a question, because now I'm looking at the word bullying, and when Dr. Lisa said it's a hurtful kind of feeling and misuse of power, I think that really happens not just to the children anymore. And it's just like, if you allow it, or if you are not sure that this is being called bullying, and if it's your culture that you respect others, and it happens to me I wouldn't say a lot, but it still happens, that people take your kindness and you're going out of your way to be nice and to be helpful, and they take it like, oh, let me see how much I can push or pull, and right now we're asking why, like, for example, of what's going on with the Me Too movement, when people asking how come for 30 years, nobody came out. So that we should ask that question ourselves too. How come these people were quiet for 30 years? All right. And this is not some small, scared kind of people. They are big people, but they were scared. And they were not just scared, but they probably blamed themselves at one point, which is going to take us to a different kind of site. That's why I love Dr. Lisa's branch and the psychology, because part of the nursing that we get into the human mind and the human body, and I start to really, and that was one of the reasons me and Lisa are working nicely and closely, because you cannot separate the body from the mind, from the environment, from psychosocial interaction. So it's all affecting us. It affects It can even affect your moral ethics. If you are seeing something, your friend, and is being bullied, and you just want to maintain your job and you close your mouth, it can affect you physically and mentally, because we do have some ethics. So when I was searching some of the information, it was very interesting. They said we're talking about bullying in the workplace, but 90 or 99% of the time, you're not going to continue to work. Okay. So my take here is leave with a dignity and don't be scared to just raise your voice, put your opinion out, because if you're leaving anyway, you know what I mean? You just have to live with a lesson learned.
All right, sure. Going back to what you've just mentioned a while ago. So why do you think it takes a while, like 30 years, for some people to voice out about the bullying, or it could be an harassment that they had experienced in the past, from a point of view of a mental health counselor? Anybody can answer this.
Dr. Lisa, because I mentioned about the guilt that the guy will fall into. They feel like it's my fault. Maybe I was nice, or maybe I was dressed some kind of in a way that was very.
Is there such
so they start blaming themselves.
We have institutional bullying, just like we have institutional racism, institutional sexism.
And what is institutional bullying, Dr. Lisa?
So institutional bullying is when the structured environment allows it to go on. So if it's administration in a school, in a corporation, anywhere, anywhere in the workplace. If it's allowed in the administration and the institutional part of it, they don't have an anti-bullying policy. They are themselves bullying people who are inferior. They have the power. Any supervisor, any person that and we're talking about in the Me Too movement, it was basically sexual harassment, right? Is really what the claims were about. The fear is, number one, your career can be ruined. The higher the career, the greater the salary, the more you have to lose. And also, it's what support are you going to get? Is anyone going to believe you? Even with children, they could tell you a story, and this is what someone said to me. Do I believe them? Sometimes it's shocking. Kids have told me over the years stories I cannot believe another child would say to them. But again, you have to.
I think we're losing you, Dr. Lisa.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. All right. Can you repeat that one more time, please? You lost your audio for a while.
Oh, so when it's the institutional bullying, that means that it's within the organization. If it's a school, if it's the workplace, if it's the media, there's a lot of stories that we've heard recently that are about females that have been harassed or bullied. And a lot of times it's too difficult to fight it. It's the majority and you're the minority. And so it's not an easy task to admit that something's happened to you. But the strength comes from knowing that you're going to have a support system if it's there. If it's not there, then it's really difficult to even discuss it.
All right. Actually, right now at present, there is no federal law that specifically applies to bullying. In some cases, when bullying is based on race or ethnicity, color, national origin, sex, disability, or religion. So how are we going to protect ourselves or the people that are being bullied, knowing that in the United States, there's no law regarding this one? So.
Well, I think cyberbullying now, though, is something that is reportable.
Yes.
Right? Because the companies that provide the social media sites, they're not allowing it. So there will continue to be more stringent penalties, because you can't just say anything to anybody in social media, right? You will be
absolutely.
But we're starting to understand the damage, and I think as companies realize that, oh, that was offensive, or why did that person say that, or who are they talking to, they have to limit the amount of aggressiveness, right? Because it becomes so aggressive that people start to insult you. They start to personalize it. And so there's a little bit more control, I think, in social media than there is in the public.
Okay. Is there a difference between bullying and harassment, Dr. Azza? how do you find if you're being bullied or you're just being harassed by another person?
I believe it's similar, in my opinion, because if you are bullied, you are just being mistreated, and
Mhm.
if you're harassed, you're being mistreated. And it's just like maybe it's a definition of harm.
Mhm.
Like I'm sure there is law to protect the sexual harassment because it's something that we define that is not acceptable. But we are the one that feeling the pain of the bullying, and we are the one that we should put a line. And even though there is no law for it yet, but there are some means and ways to really deal with it. You may not just like get rid of it or conquer it per se, but you have to acknowledge and you have to work on it. If it's a workplace, you have to just regardless to what's your position in the organization,
Mhm.
it's not in the best interest of any organization to have wasted time on drama of nonsense. So when you are addressing the issue not from personal perspective, from the benefit of the organization, from the benefit of the focus of why we are at work, then you can have your voice heard and eventually you can make some changes in the culture of the organization because I see and everybody see that there will be huge change coming. And this is something we have to write. We have to
Mhm.
write the new social norm that should be not accepted and why. Because when you're saying why and you stay away from the emotion, which is something I learned recently, better late than ever, Dr. Lisa. I wish I learned that long time ago. That when you're not focusing on yourself, you're focusing on the whole. It's the organization. So now you're having somebody else trying to take advantage of your work and your hard work and something and make it theirs. So you just present yourself as caring about the culture of the organization because definitely unhappy employee are not going to be the most effective productive employee. Reputation is not going to be the same. And right now we are in a position that there's so much competition and we have to excel every organization in their advantage to excel and have a nice team that they work together and respect each other and complement each other because there is no organization can work without housekeeper. The place is not going to be clean. There is no organization that you may not need somebody to speak different language or to cover different shifts because of the religion work schedule. So we all need and complement each other. And when you come from that area, then we're gonna rewrite the new normal. I hope.
Okay. So my next question is, what are the strategies that you're able to do or person able to do to prevent bullying or the result of being bullied?
Okay, I think the first strategy should be not to ignore it, to identify it and verbalize it, and to encourage that, which is probably through training, reminders. Educators can say, we don't allow bullying, there's a zero tolerance. And so that idea is embedded in our minds that we are not going to accept it. So the verbalization, acknowledging and talking about it is really the first step. And teaching kids and adults as well to stand up for yourself. So we don't have to be aggressive 24/7, but when we're attacked, we obviously have to defend ourselves. But the people get confused. They think if you stand up for yourself, you're aggressive. And there are a lot of other ways to describe it. And I've been described in ways like, no, I'm trying to explain to you what my acceptance is and what I'm going to allow, not I'm the one that's bullying you. So we have to learn that conflict resolution dance. It's kind of like the skills of who started it and who's going to finish it. But I'm not going to allow that. I'm going to say that's not acceptable. But we don't really understand that because conflict resolution is not something that's taught in the workplace, maybe, but it's usually after there's been a huge issue and something's happened, and then we bring in the mediators and we bring in people to describe how to handle it. So I think that awareness is helpful. Education, the institution itself has to have a zero tolerance, which it's very difficult to control people. Right? How do you tell employees if you bully another employee, this is the ramification. If there isn't law to back it up, but which harassment is easy. It's when it's very subtle. It can be something that's not so obvious, and then that's difficult to prove.
Thank you. It's very interesting, Lisa, because I read somewhere that sometimes most of the bullying in the workplace, they are a good worker, and they are acknowledged by their boss that they are good.
Mm-hmm.
So that allows them to misuse the power.
Yes.
So the total picture, if it's a CEO and he's not too involved, but he knows that this person is good. So she can really push so hard, and she can take advantage and yell and scream and make people very uncomfortable. And that was something very interesting when I learned about that. That he can be really a good worker, but he just
you can bully as well. Do you think
so there are different kinds of bullying even in the workplace? And
well, the same for students. The best students, usually the highest achieving students, the popular students, the ones that peer group identify as being successful, they're the ones that bully the minority. It's not going to be the larger group attacking each other. It's going to be the more powerful kids attacking the kids that really have less to offer or have difficulty or are disabled or have English isn't their first language, right? The majority is going to try to control the behavior. And then the other peers support it because they are the ones that are the influencers. They're the influencers in the school and in the workplace and in society. And then we listen to them, right? Because we don't have a mind of our own. We say, oh, they're the most popular or they're the best worker, so they must be right. And so it's very tricky psychologically to tease out the negative characteristics of the person because they appear to be, as you said, the best worker. And then when you report them for what they're actually saying or doing, no one can believe it.
Well, do you think, Dr. Lisa, because I was just talking with my daughter about this issue, do you think there is a class or some kind of educational that we need to put together to learn how to deal with critical or crucial conversation per se? Because I realized with all my experience and all, like life event that I went through, that sometimes it's uncomfortable to deal with confronting somebody with something that you feel is wrong or can be identified, and we still uncomfortable. And then when I started searching, I realized that husband issue is a huge number, huge and scary, because the hospital is black. And that we're talking about is like 400,000 something per year, because some other healthcare provider see something wrong and they're not able to speak. So the bullying, it takes different stages and probably takes different kind of steps that if we are not doing from the beginning, it can really be so harmful in the community. So my intake on that is to create some educational communication skills to be able to say, nobody's teaching that in school. I went to school in 3 different continents and nobody taught me how to confront uncomfortable discussion or issue and to go and say, listen, I don't think in a nice way, but there are nice way, and apparently there are some kind of skills that you can acquire and learn how to confront the uncomfortable situation. So in this way, we are not just relying on teacher and principal and CEO who sits somewhere busy with some other issues. We are going to rely on the colleague and the other environment and other people and even other students. So I think that's what starts coming since we recommended talking about the bullying, because personally, I recently started to really have the courage to confront situation, and it's so uncomfortable. But you have to come out of the uncomfortable zone, in anything you start in your life. But I'm telling you, it's not that easy, and it takes a courage and decision, and sometimes you don't sleep at night because you know that you're going to say it in the morning. But it's doing the right thing.
Exactly.
You give you the strengths. And I think we should empower every single person, not just one profession, not just one minority, because I was talking about the minority to myself, and I said, so now if somebody comes to the Philippines, and we are 20 Filipino and only one American or Egyptian or Italian or whatever, they are minority. So minority, it can be anywhere, depends where you are. Right? If I am now sitting with Egyptian, I'm not minority, but same person, but sitting with different group,
you become the minority.
Vice versa, the other way around.
Right.
Yeah. And
So
also,
that's what we need not to say minority is something bad. It's minority is a position, a situation that you're going to be at if you are the only person in this room around my house. In my house, you are minority regardless who you are. We have to empower the new generation, and we have to leave our mark, not just to invest for ourselves and we have to leave our mark for the future coming generation, and not to be afraid. Not to be afraid. When I read about history and people that now we are afraid of what? People put their life before to what they believe, and they died, and they took. Now we have to have the same courage. We have to have we have this responsibility. We did not come to this earth just to pass by and be taking whatever they want to give us. No, we are here to find out what our role and to enhance it and to.
so I have a follow-up question. Thank you very much, Dr. Azza. How about for the bystanders? Do you think it has a psychological effect on those who witness a person being bullied, Dr. Lisa?
I guess if they don't stand up for what they believe in and defend the victim of the bullying, people do become part of the majority as well. It's an imbalance of power and strength. So whoever has the power and the strength should stand up, as Azza said, for what they believe. We have a political climate right now that is very difficult to say what you believe, and there are many reasons for that. But if we have difficulty defending ourselves, a peer could stand up and say, yes, that's bullying. Yes, that's harassment. Yes, that's not acceptable. But depending on the majority, a lot of the children, especially teenagers, are afraid because it's not happening to them. If it's not happening to you, why are you going to help the other person? I personally believe that that's the only way to end it is by the group of peers that are inferior standing together against the majority, because the majority, the powerful group, that's why they're allowed to do this, because they have the ability to speak and overpower the rest. So it's about majority and minority, but it's also people coming together to defend the victim. Because how can we ever have the strength as the victim? We can't. We need people to support us. And so that's why they teach peer conflict resolution. They teach peer bullying resolution, trying to get the peers to come together to try to fight. Because we know anything that we're up against, when we have someone behind us, we're going to be more successful. If we try to do it ourselves, it's almost impossible.
But we can start. We can be the one that can lead that role. Because from what I'm searching as well, your psychosocial relationship affect your health and your cell suppression of disease. So back to your question, if you see something wrong and you don't do anything about it, it does affect you morally. So it's the moral ethics. You feel your body, even if it's not you, your body will feel isolated, and they feel the negative effect of not doing the right thing, because that's how we were born and created to be. And it over the time, the moral ethical stress can cause diseases. That's why, it's a fact, it's not just anything else, that we are number 28 in the chronic disease management, chronic disease condition in the whole world.
Wow.
America is now revealed that our health care system and our health are not up to par.
All right, so this is indeed a very interesting topic, and I believe that our viewers are actually following us, following you, Dr. Asa and Dr. Lisa. Just like what the comment that we usually get, they actually love watching the glass half full because of the information that they can get from watching our show every third
We
week.
like interaction. So if anybody has a question, we can
Absolutely, I
just
mean,
explore, and me and Lisa, we can just have to give them our experience and science and knowledge and experience, and it all different kind of exposure, because
definitely.
sometimes you learn something in school, but you face it in real life, and it give you a different perspective to how to solve or deal with issues.
Absolutely. I think the next time that we have it next month, what we're going to do, we're going to have a like a group support discussion. I will be inviting people that are following us, and then probably they can join us while we are doing the glass half full show. Okay. And Dr. Lisa, you have a book that you would like to promote to everybody. So please take this opportunity and invite them to get a copy of your book, which is entitled Your
Yes,
Weekly
I'm running
Journal.
out
Yeah.
of time, but this is what the cover looks like. It's actually a workbook. You can find it on Amazon. And
It's a wonderful tool. Excellent.
All right, show it. Show it again,
we
Dr.
can do
Lisa.
it at home. We can do it at home when we're self-isolating and we're bored and we've watched the same show 10 times
Especially
over.
because it make you focus. It make you
Yeah.
just think on the positive and write it down.
Mhm.
And there's nothing like writing something down, because it's just like you're using more than one senses when you're writing, and it's a great book, and I recommend it highly.
It's a journal. It's for writing.
Yes.
And I used it as my purpose in writing it was to use it with my patients and clients and friends and family and
Mhm.
anyone that I thought it would help, just to get us going with the journaling, because the writing part of it is usually really helpful. It's great for teens. They can write. If they're not able to tell you what's happening to
Mhm.
them, they can actually write it. And then you can just grab it and read it and then figure out what's going on, figure out their secrets.
Yeah, and also you give them like an idea to what to write about.
Yeah,
So it's not like they have to write out of the empty notebooks.
Mhm.
That has very good knowledge and very good direction.
Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. Recommended by Dr. Azza Azad, right? Okay. I think, for all our viewers, we're actually planning to do a school tour, organization tour, but unfortunately, because of the pandemic that we're experiencing right now, so those are being held. But definitely, once everything goes back to normal, you're going to be seeing Dr. Lisa and Dr. Azza in your area. So that is what we're trying to do. So hopefully that will happen very, very soon. Okay, before I request everybody to have their parting words to our viewers, I would like to let them know that if you need help, okay, for example, there's a,
It's almost 11 o'clock.
absolutely, yeah, we're actually having,
God.
yeah, it's a lot of information, and I think that's why every time that we do the glass half full, we feel like it's only like for a few minutes, but when we look at the clock, it's already 60 minutes. So that's how informative the show is actually. So if you need help and there has been a crime or someone is at immediate risk of harm, please dial 911. And if someone is feeling hopeless, helpless, and thinking of suicide, you can contact the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline online or at 1-800-273-TALK or 8255. I would like to repeat the number 1-800-273-TALK 8255. Okay, so for your parting words, I've got to start with you, Dr. Lisa.
So I think self-awareness and having a method to talk to people, whoever it is you can reach out to. If you're a teenager and you have either an older sibling, if your parents are not going to be able to assist you, because in many, getting back to the immigration idea in the families, the English may not be their first language. The parents may not be in a position to actually help the child. If you could find anyone who will listen, reach out to an adult, and then that person could probably communicate it to your parents and the other adults in your life. And I think self-esteem, knowing that you can talk to yourself, self-talk, you are okay, and to try to fight back as much as you can. And the identification of the bullying is really where it begins to be addressed. Otherwise, it will never stop. It will go on, and if we don't confront the bully, which we all know is very painful at times to confront the person that's attacking us, we need to know that that's the only way to really stop it. And then the prevention is just the awareness that it can happen when it happens and what to do, the education. But the conflict resolution skills training, as it was mentioning, is really what institutions need in order to try to prevent it from even happening.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lisa. And of course, Dr. Azza, for your parting words.
Much for me, Dr. Lisa. She said everything.
All right, but I do have one question for you before we say adieu to our viewers. Where should I get the courage to speak up for myself if I experience or been experiencing this type of bullying? What advice can you give to our audience?
The advice is just to collect all your strengths and your power and what can happen, and just to decide that you're gonna stand for yourself. You love yourself enough that you are not allowing that to happen to yourself, and you just deal with whatever, as long as you feel like you did not violate anybody's right. You just have to know it's not you, it's them. So you have to be also fair with yourself. Make sure, like self-assessment, that you have to be honest with yourself. So because I cannot be like at fault and just go and blame somebody else. So I have to take it as an experience, self-assessment and self-evaluation, and then we have to have the courage to nicely say, what did you mean when you screamed at me? You know, what did you mean when you say that I don't speak English? What did you mean? Because I usually understand you. You know, you just confront in a nice way, and you put the other person in a situation. If there is nothing they can say, then you know what? You won.
All right. Thank you very much again. Anyway, let's give a big round of applause to Dr. Azza and Dr. Lisa. All right. Okay, once again, my name is DJ MJ Make My Day. Ito po ay tuwing Tuesday ng gabi sa Rainbow 107.1, your number one online radio station. At syempre, MJ Make My Day naman po every Friday, 10 p.m. at 10 in the morning in the Philippines. I would like to say thank you very much to 1120 Consultants, and of course, Rainbow 107.1 and Life's Next Chapter Foundation. Thank you very much, Dr. Lisa and Dr. Azza, and we'll see you again next week. All right. Good night, everybody, and good morning. Thank you for joining, and please don't forget to like and subscribe to MJ Make My Day. Thank you. All right, so I would like to say hi to everybody. I'm sorry. Let me read all of your names. Ayan Viray Campbell is watching. Alicia Belasa is watching. Ardina Javier is watching. Aja Saidan, you're also watching. Ida. Okay, and of course, Ramina Tino, Abigail, and Joby. And of course, I would like to say hi also to Queen S. Alana. Thank you very much for watching, Queen. Will F. Azazilia and Self Palagasa and Mark Lesser. And on YouTube, thank you very much, everybody. And to my family in the Philippines, to my Pudra, and to all the family, happy birthday again to Kuya Ruben, and to my baby Yum Yum. Thank you very much. God bless everybody. And this is MJ Make My Day. Thank you.